Now I'm spending time with Noah and Elijah, and the last time with Elijah on board, basically we spent the time we're scanned a little bit, but most of the time Noah was able to introduce what we went through in this book. The book title Elijah called Analytics of Confucius. Okay, so sometimes called the dialogue. The context is that just like Jesus or other people in ancient times, they don't have recording, they don't have video, they don't have what the people do actually. They can't easily take notes either, am I right? So think about it, they don't have paper or pen. They have those time I was talking to Noah, they had to make a recording on bamboo for China.
Like a scroll.
Yeah, bamboos. In Egypt it's a papyrus, am I right? So sometimes they use silk. Silk is very expensive. You can easily write on it, but you can think about the paint is not naturally good, the material not good. In Babylon, they actually use clay, so making sense to you? Mm-hmm. So different people come up with different ways to try to keep records. Some are literally sizzled on stone, am I right? So making sense to you? Mm-hmm. So, or some inscribed on different vessels, like made of bronze, made of silver, made of gold, stuff. Were laborious process and hard process to just keep words, So in that things, word expensive, maybe more precious than gold. You see my point. The word that I want to kept. And some, even kept who access to it. Seldom people have access to it. So writing things is a very seldom thing. But certain people have the to get access to things that are already privileged in terms of education. And they were, in those days, they have different classes. So certain people, like Indian people, like China people, also the same thing, like here, before the 50s, slavery is a problem, right? Education not to just allowed freely to everybody. Even before the Civil War, education actually not allowed for slaves, am I right? Making sense to you? So certain people is not privileged, not necessarily the oppressed per se, because we bring to slavery context always the bad history, basically. But this society in those times is not developed advanced in a way that this kind of things, as a unique privilege, can be populated to common people. Am I right? So that's why there was one difference. It's nobles and commoners. The nobles, commoners, a big difference is more than money, power, privilege of life, but it's a big thing that should define them in ancient time, in ancient society, is are you educated or not? Education, it becomes a mark. That is stand especially true for Chinese society. Okay, pass on. Making sense to you? So, Confucius was one. They went through a lot of time in his history background that our Chinese as a nation has to go through huge transformation. The kind of transformation would be like the Britain after Second World War. Before it was the greatest empire in the whole world, in the sense, let's scale down in China territory, okay? So then what have you, then lost control of Indian, of Canada, different colonies, am I right? Different things use control, including this nation, you read the Declaration of Independence, anyone knows that it was a revolt against unreasonable, you received kind of control or rule from the British monarch. Am I right? Making sense to you? So now at that time, British as much monarch is not like today's monarch. It's only namely those days monarch actually have more say in every sphere of politics of the nation, other things, right? So they have a parliament as well. They're fighting each other. eventually sometimes they kill their king, stuff like that. So that's a struggle then carry on. Such a transformation, a decline and dissolution, things begin to falling apart basically from a central government called the Zhou dynasty. Okay, so happened to this nations and divided in many small nations, and they fighting, competing, different philosophies, just like the world in the 20s. You have or 30s, you have fascism, you have socialism, you have all kinds of capitalism, so all kinds of things competing each other. Elijah might have no clue about this thing, but you begin to know those things, right? So it is in China at those times. There's a different schools of thoughts begin to compete each other. More than philosophically, actually, each one have a different idea how to organize the nation, how to be a good kingdom or good people together. Making sense to you? So now Confucius one is more what we should conservative or traditional. So he inherited and privilege was, as he was the prime for one of the major little kingdoms for a while because of virtue, because knowledge, but more important because his wisdom. His wisdom is inherited or learned from a long tradition of Chinese passing and a former kingdom. Making sense to you guys? Now the record was passed on to him. He was able to consolidate them, to edit them, and then make a commentary sometimes, then teaching others. Okay, so those things included many things. So including, for example, including history, including governing rules, like Moses' law, tell people how to govern themselves, right? So including how to sing together, worship together, or celebrate a ceremony together. Making sense to you? Normally we only see sports, have popular song concerts. In ancient times, they don't do those things. Music, when it played, oftentimes it's in worship time, it's in great ceremony time. Making sense to you? Like inauguration of a president here, more like it. Making sense to you? So there's a whole way for that need to be organized. It's a cultural center as well, right? So everybody has to do the right thing. Everybody has to behave in a certain way, in a sense, dress in a certain way. So those things seems very for modern mind, for young mind, might say, oh, who care about that? Until you rule a nation, until you want an example of FIOE, that a nation needs a certain leadership, certain order, making sense, certain routines, and certain laws. Because if people without certain restraint or certain guidance, certain ways of honor leadership, the nation will be anarchy, right? Will be lawless. Nobody going to listen to one another. Nobody can work together. Making sense to you? So, well, that's unfortunately this kind of fighting has been the contention of human history, even in argument. For example, today we talk about the tyranny. That's bad words. Dictator always a bad words, right? So, but when we talk about the king, this culture, what have you, as we shared, a king instantly being answer said as if it's a bad figure, right? So it's a dictator or the tyrant, right? So, but in ancient time, is that the case? That's a modern idea for kingship, right? So making sense to you? In ancient time, people, when they think of king, they may think about king, evil king. But on the context, there's no democracy, just to say that, the limitation there. So they have to have the right ruler. So what the idea of a king in the positive side is always, oh, wonderful, we have the right kind of ruler, right? So now that is actually very important for us to understand the Bible in big time when talking about the kingship, talking about kingdom, right? So making sense to you? Now how's that wisdom being kept and imparted? That seems a lost art, a lost education in Christian circles, right? So making sense to you? Especially it's lost is when church become a gaining prominence and begin to use the doctrines rather than use real life experiences. Am I right? So with using, for example, the community, a family to impart the certain things, make it has a chance to practice it. Make sense to you? You know how you're gonna practice that in the tradition like Catholics, where the priesthood is practicing celibacy. See, this outside of normal family engagement, normal communication, basically a set aside monks, making sense to you, to be the teacher, the rulers, whatever. Am I right? So making sense to you? Now they have no idea about what the family is about. One generation, another generation, what it's about. They have no idea what it means to be a community leader, except that they were, honored as if somebody's. It's like alienate, am I right? A distant system. So this carried on for 1,000 years per se in church history. Then passed on to Martin Luther. The revolt was, okay, we're not supposed to do these certain things. But what about educated people? Again, we change to be intellectually right doctrine, try to do the right kind of community with a certain idea, certain kind of reformative idea, right? So try to copy, almost like the Pharisees using the Old Testament, right? And also the law, try to make a society works. But you look at the leadership of their families, few has really come to say, okay, God actually use a community, use a family to do this. They don't want a big movement, we don't want a big university to teach many people, right? So it's interesting. That tradition that is started with Catholic, actually, before Catholic, which is a great way how to educate people, rather than thread or founded a society based on true education through a family generation impartation, is become an academic intellectual indoctrination, right? Everybody learn the skill, everybody learn knowledge. So the huge tendency to depart the two education together. I mean, I'm not saying that this is bad per se, but when you practice those things, the one of the major contest or vehicles God ordained for His wisdom, for His culture to be built, is missing. Making sense to you? It's almost like you can't do that, So it's just choose the wrong way to try to do things. I'm making sense to you. Elijah, you understand what I'm saying here? So, do you have questions?
Actually, I throughout what you've been saying, different words that I'm trying to, as you told me, to write stuff down.
Yeah.
There's some words that I don't understand that you're saying a lot, like.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
I don't know what the word tyranny means, monarchy or democracy. I don't really know what those words mean.
That's good word. Yeah, it's good to learn. Let's Noah share his idea about those things. Go ahead.
So the first word is pronounced tyranny, and then basically that relates to other words like if you're like a dictator or dictatorship. Basically, that's someone that is viewed as someone that almost rules with absolute power and almost in a ruthless way. So it's almost the complete opposite of democracy. It's also known as like an autocracy. So autocracy is the complete opposite of democracy. So democracy is a nation that is governed and ruled by the people, particularly. So basically, there's more of a public accumulation of opinion of how a nation should be run instead of run by a small group or even just one person who, that's why he soon was mentioning earlier how in a democracy like today, the word king, which is a sole ruler, or also known as a monarchy, is viewed in a negative sense because it's in complete opposition to our form of government today, which is that which is ruled by the public choice or opinion of the people of a nation. And so there's a very interesting structure of authority that goes or is observed in both different systems of government. So you had tyranny and democracy. What was the other word?
Tyrant, dictator, is basically the tyrant is the head for the tyranny. Okay,
Yeah.
dictator is the same, different word talking about somebody. It's like Hitler was dictator in a sense, and right, so it's a bad figure. Nobody can tell him otherwise. He made people can challenge, but he allow it, and right, it's for his own benefit. By the end of the day, he decided people's, blessing and the curse in a sense, life and death, even right. So making sense to you. So there's no serious law
Yeah.
binding that dictator, and right. So making sense. There is no moral restraint. Ultimate moral restraint. There's no God in his life. No moral restraint. No external counsel. Making sense to you? So, but that's the bad way of running a nation, which is, you would think nobody would have that in life. Unfortunately, that's not the experience of humankind, right? So, so how to prevent those things? At the same time, democracy is a word actually from Greek thoughts. Demo is a word actually is a public as mass. Basically, the democracy had to do with the city. In Greek, the nations from a city, there were cities, right? So when the city organized, they have their council, they have their gathering, they decide the whole matter for that city. It's not like in little villages, like people don't need the infrastructure, don't need to build a road, don't build. You understand my point? Because Greek began to adopt city life, also different city began to combine together, called a confederation, become confederate together. So they have treaties with one another, especially for purpose of security. They had to defend other, fighting each other. Well, all those things come from a very, very poor background. Basically, it's bloody wars, all you can see Greek always fighting, right? So even the sports is about the training soldiers. So my point is that there never was peaceful, solid, or in a sense oriented for the well-being, actually individuals. So may think they're fighting for individuals. It's interesting how since they actually democracy think about it, it's about defending individuals. In the beginning, it was not individual at all. It was democracy was more, okay, I need your help. Everybody need to volunteer to defend ourselves, to do certain things. So we need everybody to be part of it, right? So making sense to you? It was never about individual benefits that democracy came around. It was because the people are so scattered. There's no one unite together. No one agree the leaders. So what they have a forum said, let's compromise. Let's do certain rules. We can come together. Then, says my point. But suffice to say. But those things need to learn when we have time. My point to try to bring here the context. Just to think of this Asian culture that is circling. That Confucius experience was brought up. So we have this ideal, this going on, one nation, not people everybody fighting, not everybody try to have no idea how to run a nation, strange idea running around, strange ways running around, strange character running around, smart people running around, try to convince others to do this, do that, schemers running around, try to scheme one another based on nation interest. That's my point. And no king has a restraint or has the audacity to say that I want to do right. Every day is about try to win another territory, try to just for gain, for power, there's no long-term thinking, right? So for survival, for just to oppress others or to invade others. Making sense to you? So this lasts for 300 years, like America's founding till today. You can imagine how much the people have suffered. And the whole scan of the people, the tradition continues to seed, and certain idea continues to deteriorate. So he was full of compassion for the people. He full of zeal to try to restore things. In that regard, he began to gather certain young people, and they began to teach the things edited, collected, and try and pass on. In the process now, I'm not talking about those particular thing he taught, okay? That's required another whole school of engagement. In the process, however, he has everyday interaction with his disciples, we call students. As a student, he can write down every day his words like people did to Jesus, right? So he began to, those snippet thoughts, it's a perfect embodiment on a reflection about his understanding how to be, as we shared last time. You did a good job to recount what it means to be a good person. Right? What it means good person in many aspects of life. Elijah, I try to inspire you to think in our private time, the first conversation. Now, a young lad or any man mature, when true maturity comes, is never about my own vision life be fulfilled. Unfortunately, that's a natural tendency for young people. And it's unfortunately, even more unfortunate rather, is that is encouraged by the society we have. So everybody's saying, how am I going to be someday myself? And everything else is supporting me. You're supposed to make way for me. If you don't do that for me as a young lad, you're not a good parent for me, not good society for me, not good school for me, you're not a good leader for me. And the leaders, society might just say, yeah, we need young people to succeed. Yeah, just cheer on as if actually they really do that. They don't really do that. If you really do that, would your school system be like today? It's like a wasteland, right? So you understand my point. My point is that if you really do that, would the family breaking down all the time? Because young family, young life need the security of family, need the privilege of schooling, right? So if we're really a society want to do that, they will not let those fundamentals be devastated, right? So any harm, then nobody give a fight for it. Even the fight for what? For different way of educating, what a material we use. Because the fundamental culture is lost, right? So my point is that it's interesting how man can deceive themselves. And, so what young people, as I shared with you, Elijah, last time, when mature young, the market, young, any man's maturity is when he's thinking about his own life in greater context of relationships. Well, okay, that means my vision of life is more than me being a musician, sorry to use that example, or a superstar, whatever. My life has to do with how I treat my parents, how I treat my siblings, how I treat and work with my local community leadership. Suppose they are there and really want to work for the benefit of the community, right? Unfortunately, that was taken away oftentimes. We don't have the chance to do it. So how I impart my life to another generation. Basically, how I can be an example for others, younger ones, especially the coming generation, right? So now you look at this picture, you will see a totally different vision of receiving inspiration in life and invest your life into other things. Unfortunately, man's idea and values run through history has been very self-serving, self-centered, if not selfish. Okay, so for example, I would give you one example. Nobody would remember except God's Bible, when we do that, nobody would remember a good father, a perfect father. He may not be a president. He may not write a book. He may not be able to play a concert. But he has the best father in the whole world. But nobody write a book about it. Nobody give him a biography. Nobody had to say, okay, the fatherhood, be good father, is every man with a family has to do. Am I right? With children. It's such an important thing in society. In generation blessings. Let's study that. Let's honor that. What do we honor? We honor a soldier. We honor a sports star, right? We honor somebody who can sing, has no idea what he's singing about actually sometimes. This is just obscured, modern obscured, this is totally upside down almost. Wheel for practice honor, practice importance for vision for life. Now, if one wants to be a star, well, he's excellent, we cheer him on. That's a good father. He provided for us. He's a president of the nation. He's a king of the land. Therefore, he's a good father. Undergirding it is this false pursuit and ambition. This overlaid everyone's mind. This is what we need. This is what is desirable. This is what is admirable. This is what it means to be a chill man, a good man, right? So now we're there as in the Proverbs scene, this old man, when the city was besieged, threatened, everything runs in panic and despair. They finally have a little bit decency to ask this old man, what do we do? It's in Solomon's, right? Ecclesiastes. Solomon's Ecclesiastes book talking about there's a story that when the city was threatened, the people finally, foolish citizenry in that city, am I right? So making sense to you? So they come to the old man and said, okay, we need your help, we need a counsel. And the old man offers counsel and save the city from the grip of the enemy, and then come back. They totally forgot the old man. Which is interesting. It's a human history. It's more than this one man, right? Stated out, written down by a beautiful king in a beautiful book, recording the most honorable book in human history, that is the Bible. We think, that is very interesting. We will never do that. And any society to do that would be foolish society, So because that's what does Solomon talk about? It's because of fools than people, foolish people do that. Am I right? We would never do that if we are the people. Unfortunately, is that the case? Amen. Even Solomon, who wrote this book, The Human Nature Overtake His Sons. Am I right? Rehoboam, what have you? Rehoboam respect the elders. Now, I'm not using those things to ask you guys to respect elders. That's not the point. The point is there's a way really is made oftentimes very careless about it if they know about it. Most of the time, they're totally ignorant about it. Amen? Because their ideas, their perception, what is important in life, is totally obscured. It's informed by a wrong culture, by a wrong way life being organized, expected. I know I might speaking a little bit false, but it's very relevant to you guys to understand why would it inspire you to think differently. What it means to be a brother. Oh yeah, it's about me being treated Elijah right. No, it's far, far beyond that. That's where the beauty, when you appreciate the Bible, came from. We appreciate the wisdom that we will discuss about of Confucius is about. Am I right? So, no, you have any comments on this? Go ahead.
Nothing particularly. I think this is a really good point or context to build in concerning any further readings of this book in Confucius.
Yes.
Of Confucius' teaching. So, I do like the last few points you just made there concerning or your encouragement to really think differently about some what would seem like very familiar concepts or terms that we use every day.
Yeah.
For example,
Brotherly love.
yeah, what does it mean to be a brother?
Yeah.
Is it just some biological relationship that you have with someone
There you go.
that comes from the same parents as you do?
Because the Bible tells brotherly love.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And you know, humankind, religious people, whatever, the idea people, for example, Freemasonry,
Mm-hmm.
is talking about the brotherhood of man. Who
Yep.
they think they know what they're talking about. But really, as is undergirding is ambition of power, ambition to control.
When considering
Yes.
very fundamental
Yeah.
concepts like that, and then truly thinking about them, for instance, in something like Freemasonry, for example,
Yes.
the intention in which that they study or think about such a concept or even implement such a concept can be very, very different from.
That's where deceptive.
Yeah, it's for us.
It's ready for
it's for a
the
cause,
brotherhood of man or self
Exactly. Yeah.
achievement. But you see how certain ideas, if you don't really examine and properly in the right context, is very deceptive now. The word of love. A young man
Yeah.
love in so intensity will kill another guy to win the affection of somebody. Or love can hurt, it will kill the very person he loves sometimes. Out of rage, out of unforgiveness, right? So what is love? No, he will say, I did that for love. My whole life wrong because I love that person. But what is love? Nobody had educated him. That is not love. That is perverted thinking, a perverted expression of a pure thing, but it's turned to be evil and murderous in this case. I mean, do you understand my point? So what is love? We just use that one word. We never think about the application. And the true essence of it has to be agreed upon. How to apply it, right? How to do it. Well, with that, how to do it, you got to know what it really is about.
Yeah, I think interestingly, the word or meaning of love is a good example of
Yes.
a word that has such depth and such profound meaning that it is very easily and quickly misinterpreted and then therefore used as an excuse for other emotions. and results.
Exactly, the corrupt refuse to justify everything, right?
Yeah, like that last example you gave of a young man killing another for the sake of love
Yes.
is basically pride and selfishness that is wearing a cloak of a misinterpretation.
There
of love.
you go. That's just a word of love.
Yeah.
Nobody would say, you when you talk about love, we have a problem with you. Nobody would say that, right?
Yeah.
But everybody talk about love, everybody will cheer you on. I know what you're talking about. But when you ask it, okay, what kind of love are you talking about? How are you going to practice that? You'll find everybody has their own opinion.
Very true. Yeah.
Am I right? We have different opinion this day. Listen, I tell you, love your brother. I have different expectations, right? And you have different expectations yourself, right? So, that's love. My idea for how you should love Elijah, it might be different than yours, right? So here we try to learn, right? So in a sense. And my idea how you should do it might be different than yours, right? So, but when we remotely talking about, we just said, well, no problem, I will do it. I'm doing it. We have no disagreement. Not when I said, okay, how about Elijah? Elijah, you understand what I'm saying here? I try to loop you in a greater context, whereas those contexts might be absent in our dialogue, but it was introduced prior and with his age, right, in our past conversations. My point is that in all this is trying to tell you the thing we discuss about, they're not things that's on the page. Things that's a good point, worth to take a note down, right? So it has to really profoundly change your life. It's I think it's great to do with culture building, am I right? So making sense to you. Now, I'm gonna have you to pray before that. I'm going to come look back to the question in the first time I asked you, am I right? So if vision of life is not projected with the self-achievement, self-aspiration, not necessarily selfish, not really banned vision at all. So it need to be recharted, rewired, reconstructed in a sense. On the context, okay, I want to be a good father, rather than I want to be a good president. Okay, which is more important in life?
Which one basically has more of the potential to build a culture?
Exactly. Which one you want to learn? Now, interesting enough, you can't be a good president unless you are good, real good president, unless you are good
Father.
There lies the key. Family culture to kingdom culture. We think, are you just talking about the humankind, one particular personality in human history? No, I'm talking about God Himself. God Himself is the two aspects. Now, how to start educating into our lives? We just blissfully think it won't come around, am I right? My suggestion is no, it comes from such environment, such weird discussion, such way of thinking about it. When I bring this to this light, the equation of fatherhood as a kingship in this light, you will never treat lightly. You will never treat, oh, you are talking about that neighborhood, those fathers, those children. Or you're talking about 1800, in the middle of 1800, that generation in America, not in Africa. As much as they were practical, I can narrow down to every father, but it's also a very, universal. It applies to every man that